Hey guys, it's Jamie from thedailyinfusion.com, and I wanted to make this little impromptu video about triggers and trauma. And how do we know if we're feeling and processing our emotions versus mentally indulging in them? And this is a question I get asked in various different ways all the time, and it's really not as complicated as we make it in our minds, but the process of actually releasing feelings from a series of traumas that we may have collected over time or may still be in, that is a little bit, it requires more patience, and it requires a full connection and willingness to be in the body. And what's tricky about this is when traumas occur, we don't feel safe in our bodies and we go into survival mode, so we disconnect at that time. But there are emotions going on, we're just not connected to them. And so they're not really getting the chance to really be consciously processed and released. And so what happens is later in time, we get triggered into feeling those similar sensations that we felt during the actual trauma. And we don't always know how to handle those sensations without going into survival mode again. And sometimes that means we might project those emotions outward or blame ourselves, but we can get caught up in a story in our mind about why this shouldn't be happening and how do I get rid of this, when really we need to sink deeper into the body, which is going to feel a little unsafe at the time. And it's my absolute pleasure and joy and fills my heart to do this work with people, to help them feel connected and safe with their bodies again, so they can do this emotional work and release, so that it doesn't have to stay trapped in their body anymore and they can experience a relief of symptoms over time. But it involves a lot of commitment and responsibility on our part to not blame our triggers on the outside world or do a mental analysis of them, but really to get back into the place where we can connect with literally what is the basic sensation that is going on in my body right now. So a trigger arises, we identify how it feels in our body sensationally. So does it feel like a tornado in my chest? Does it feel like a rubber band around my throat? Does it feel like a heaviness or pressure right here? Does it feel like a pressure on my head? And the more we can identify those sensations, we're starting to come back to the body, and we're not so much in the mind anymore. And now we can breathe into those places and feel them move, because that's what happens when we start consciously acknowledging those sensations. They begin to move the more we acknowledge them. And they may come out in some form of a release of tears, or you might just feel it dissipating and moving upwards and out of your head, or you may feel it just kind of burn out. But this is the way that we process and digest emotions that didn't get the chance to be processed at the time of the trauma. And so we're going to be triggered probably regularly for a little while as we get used to using the mind in this way. The only way we should use the mind as a tool is to identify these sensations without attaching a story, which is the indulgence, which is creating even more anxiety around a certain situation, because now we're here. We can feel it. When we're in the mind, we're not feeling. We're here, we're thinking, and releasing emotions is not a thought process. It's a feeling process. And we're sensory beings. We're emotional beings. And the emotions are energy that want to move. So our job is to connect with that inside of our body instead of go off into a place in our mind so we get further away from it. And this is how we release. And it's a little bit tricky when we're first starting to do this, and we can get impatient at times, wondering why things continue to come up and rise to the surface. But this is so we exercise the muscles of getting out of the mind, sinking into the body, and processing. And we do it, the more we do it, the easier it gets. When we recognize those sensations, we can identify, okay, I know this sensation, it's just probably left over from a previous trauma that didn't get to be felt, and now is my opportunity to complete that experience. And maybe it might not be fully digested in that moment, and another trigger will arise, and you'll have another opportunity to get a little bit more deeper into that and release a little bit more, then a little bit more, and a little bit more. But this is how we heal our bodies. So all the places where that heaviness, where that tightness is stored can now move, and we clear the space inside of us to literally get oxygen and our blood moving again, to feel like it's okay to be in our skin. And I'm happy to work with you to guide you through that process. I know what it's like to go through this process. I've been there myself. I work through these emotions every day that arise in my body. Only now I look forward to it because I know that I'm going to get a clarity that immediately will come after that release, as opposed to this mental resistance that keeps me stuck in a place that reinforces a feeling I don't want to feel, quite frankly, because it's uncomfortable. But now that I know how to do this, I can look forward to releasing it and gain strength in that. This is what true vulnerability is. It's the willingness to fully connect to ourselves. And when we can do that, we're more present with our world and with others, and we no longer blame or project, and we take full responsibility for our lives. And instead of feeling powerless, we feel powerful, little by little. So contact me at Jamie, or actually info at thedailyinfusion.com. And I'd be happy to guide you through this process. And if you have any other questions, feel free to give me a shout. And in the meantime, I'm sending you lots of love. Talk to you soon. Bye.